Giving Back to Myself, an open letter written by Scarlett Infante on February 22nd, 2016. I have been trying to write this letter for months, scratch that, for almost 16 years. I could never seem to put all of the pain I felt for most of my life onto paper. I could barely start typing this without feeling an instant rush of anxiety, sweaty palms, and tears in my eyes. But here I am again, making what is hopefully my final attempt. As the founder of Project Give Back, I'm constantly asked why I started it in the first place. What made you choose this path? What inspired you? Why do you want to make giving back a career? I always respond with polite, generic answers. My mom did these things while I was growing up, so I wanted to carry on the tradition, or it feels good to give back to those who need it the most. But I've never been honest about the real reason Project Give Back even came to mind. At this point in my life, I want to come clean about why Project Give Back is so important to me. I want to continue doing what I love without hating myself and the reasons I do it behind closed doors. So, here I go. Like 17 million other American women, I have been a victim of rape. I was sexually molested at 9 years old and then raped at the age of 17. Rape is just what you imagine it to be, soul-sucking. I was young each time, but both times equally felt like I was losing a part of myself I would never get back. Embarrassment kept me quiet enough to never tell a soul. Until a few months ago, I blamed myself for letting it happen. I told myself that if I could have gone back to those moments, that I would have handled myself better, that I would have known how to protect myself. I've beaten myself up and called myself weak for not knowing how to escape what have been the longest, most traumatizing minutes of my life. But I now realize I have been wrong all along. This isn't a cry for help or attention. This is what I like to call my personal project Give Back to Myself. This is me taking all of my control back, control that I've never had, control that I know I deserve. This is me taking my life by the reins, snatching my soul back from the degenerate cowards who made the choice to break me but failed. This is me wholeheartedly bearing myself to the world because I know what it feels like to want to hear these words. You are not alone. You are not weak. It was not your fault. I've always been known as the happiest person in the room, always smiling, dancing, and being silly. But nobody knows that behind each smile lives a deep incarcerating sadness. Shutting up about being torn apart is not only weakening, but makes the gruesome memories of sexual abuse even harder to live with. I don't know how I've done it, but I've endured countless LOLs at rape-related memes and jokes on my social media timelines. Every time the topic emerges online and snowballs into a timeline-wide discussion, I always make a swift exit. I've never been ready enough to comment unbiasedly because I am not at all unbiased about my past. Besides my remarks coming from a very, very dark place, I think people were as ready to hear them as I've been prepared to speak on it. Not at all. It took me some time to realize that I won't ever be ready to speak about my abuse. Nobody's ever ready to say, hey, I've been raped. One reason is because it's easier to hide behind a wound that you've covered up and try to forget than to unstitch it publicly. The second is because unstitching that wound publicly gives people the chance to either welcome you with open arms or judge and whisper about you behind your back. Although I knew all of the risks taken by publishing this letter, I still decided to do so because my voice is standing up for the hundreds of thousands of people who get sexually assaulted every single day, men and women. More than bringing me peace, I hope that this brings awareness to the misery that attaches itself to rape victims. I hope this letter helps those that don't understand that even the people who seem to be the most joyful in the room can be slowly dying inside. Taking shots of their favorite whiskey and losing their mind while dancing to their favorite song could also mean it's them hoping it's the last time they do so. Victims of any kind of trauma don't need pity. What we need is support and respect. For me, that starts with thinking before making an irrational comment. You don't know how it could affect the person next to you, or in this case, above or below you on a social media timeline. Sex abuse is still a taboo topic in our society. It's because it makes unaffected people uncomfortable that victims are embarrassed to share their story. The world is quick to judge and pose their opinions about how they would have handled the situation if it ever happened to them. But like any situation, you just don't. I don't wish that level of helplessness and any confusion on my worst enemy. I hope that this instills faith in somebody who has been searching for the courage to share their story, because at this very moment, I feel stronger than ever. And if you are that somebody, this is for you. Dear survivor, you are not alone. That terrible moment in your life does not and will never define who you are and will become as a person. You are stronger than you think you are. You will set yourself free of the anxiety that binds you, the sleepless nights, and fear of ever being able to trust again. It may not be in form of a letter like me, but you will find a way to free yourself, and it will be the happiest moment of your life. Although it took me more than a decade to figure it out, please know that nobody is in control of your life but you. Know that you are loved because I love you. You are my sister. You are my brother. You are not alone in your sentiments and will never be. I may not know you, but I am extremely proud of all of your accomplishments. Don't ever let anything or anyone dim your beautiful light. As a survivor myself, believe me when I tell you that it gets better. I promise. All of my love, Scarlett. I need a minute. This is the first time that I read that letter without breaking down. And if that is not a testament of my healing, of my growth, of how strong I am, how strong I always have been, how strong I have become, then I don't know what else is. When I wrote that letter, I was 25 years old. So if you backtrack a little bit, I was sexually molested when I was 9 years old, a baby, a child. And then I was raped when I was 17. And it took until I was 25 to finally speak about it freely. And, it was because I didn't have the support that I thought I needed after it happened. The first time that I was abused, I didn't tell anybody except my sister, who was also young. She was only like 12. So she didn't know what to do. So we told my mom. And when I told my mom, she didn't really believe me. And that was very hard for me. I was known by the family that I had at the time to be very rebellious. I talked back. I was fresh. And that really made them see me differently than they saw all the other kids. So when I spoke out about me being abused at 9 years old, they didn't buy it. Nobody ever believed me. So I let it go. I didn't know what to do. I was 9. So I kind of just let it ruin me, if I'm being completely honest, in silence. I didn't speak to anybody about it, and I kind of just brushed it under the rug as if it never happened. And as a 9-year-old, I didn't understand what happened to me, and I also didn't know how to heal or process through what happened to me. So that is why when I was 17 and I was, again abused, I didn't tell anybody. And that one was the one that was the worst for me, because I was older and because it was more violent. And because of that, I wanted to tell people. I wanted to have somebody protect me, somebody go after the person that did it to me. But because of the fact that I wasn't believed when I first spoke about it, I chose to not tell anybody. And that's when things got bad. From 17 to 25, I was not doing well emotionally. I hid it a lot. I started drinking at a very young age. I started being sexual at a very young age. And I was looking for love in the worst of places, in the worst of ways. My insecurities, my self-esteem were extremely low. I thought I was worth nothing. I thought that I was just a sex object. Those are the things that I was telling myself at 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That I was worthless. And, you know, had I received the support since I was younger, had I went to therapy, had I went to counseling, had somebody told me what happened to you is not okay, we need to do something about it, had I been protected, I don't think that any of that would have happened. I don't think that I would have been such an insecure human being at such a young age, when I should have been taught to, you know, love myself and be great. So that was very, very tough. So when I decided to write the letter, I wrote up a draft. It took me a long time to do it. But once I put a draft together, I sent it over to one of my best friends who was a great editor and writer, and she helped me kind of put it all together. And once I did that, I had to pick a date on when to post it. And, you know, I eventually picked February 22nd, 2016. And the day that I posted it on my website and made it live and then posted it on Instagram, I literally like hit, you know, post, and I threw my phone. I was like, oh my God, like, I don't know what people are gonna say, how people are going to react. I don't know, you know, I was so nervous. I'm nervous now, like just pressing record for this video was really tough for me. And guys, wow, the support I received from my friends, from people who don't even know me, from just the world was so comforting. It was so loving. It was so accepting. I felt like I received a warm hug from everybody who reached out to me and just told me how much I am loved, how valued I am. People who shared their stories with me, and, you know, we were able to just like lean on each other. It was just a beautiful feeling to know that because of this letter, I wasn't going to be judged. That because I freed myself, I wasn't going to be looked at differently. All I got in return was love, respect, and support. And that is exactly what I wanted from it. So I felt really blessed in that specific moment once I wrote the letter. And then it was just out to the world. And I did it. I was so proud of myself because it took a really long time for me to get to that point where I can freely just speak about my own sex abuse experiences. So once I posted my letter, I decided that right there and then I was going to start my healing journey, whatever that looked like for me. So in the process, I started working on myself, being more honest with myself, sharing my story so that I can continue to free myself, speak to other victims who have gone through the same things, just so that we can lean on each other, get advice from each other, so that I know I'm not alone in this. And in the journey of healing, I realized that there was one thing that was holding me back. And in order for me to be the best version of myself, in order for me to completely, totally, 100% free myself from the chains of what my sex abuse felt like to me, I had to release myself of one thing. And I kind of went back and forth on whether I wanted to speak about this publicly on my channel. And that is because I have family members who follow me, who watch my videos. And so I didn't know if I was going to feel comfortable speaking about this. But because, like I told you guys in the beginning of when I started my channel, I am going to give you full transparency. This is raw, full, honest content. And if I am not sharing my entire journey with you honestly, then there's no purpose of me even doing this. So I'm just gonna go through with it. I feel like it's what I have to do for myself and to kind of give you guys the picture of what my journey looked like, because I know that there are many victims out there who have gone through the same thing that I have gone through. So my mother not believing me was something that was very, very hard for me. I told her when I was 9 that I was abused, and she kind of just like dismissed it. She didn't believe me along with everybody else. So I held a lot of anger towards her, a lot of sadness towards her, a lot of not good feelings towards her. And that was something that I know that I needed to address in order for me to move forward with my life and kind of, like I said, feel completely free from those chains. So I thought about it, I prayed on it, and I knew that this is what I had to do. So one day I just got home from work and I was feeling really anxious. So I knew that, okay, you got to do it because it's going to drive you crazy if you don't. So I get home and I sit my mother down and I'm like, look, we have to talk. So I'm not going to tell you exactly what I said to her, but long story short, I was like, you didn't believe me. And because you didn't believe me, because you didn't protect me, it broke me. And because of that, I am now telling you that I was also abused at 17, which is something I never told you. Because when I told you the first time, you weren't there for me, which made me not want to tell you the second time because I was completely traumatized by your reaction. And you know, she begged me for forgiveness. She said that she should have been more protective over me, that she should have believed me, that she regrets not doing so, and that she hopes that I can find it in my heart to forgive her. And honestly, that's all I wanted to hear from her. You know, as people, we are imperfect. As parents, we are imperfect, and I'm saying we because I will be a parent at some point in my life, and I know that I'm not always going to make the best decisions for my child. So I know that it wasn't her just being ill towards me. I know that had she knew better, she would have done better, and for those reasons, I am able to forgive her. I was able to forgive her, and now we have the best open relationship that I would have ever dreamed of. You know, I can talk to her about anything. I talk to her about my therapy sessions all the time, about my anxiety, about my depression, all the things that I deal with. My mother now knows, and she's my number one supporter. And that only happened because I was able to have that conversation with her. It was a very hard conversation. We were both in tears, but it improved our relationship. And for that, I am forever grateful. Now, after speaking to my mother, I decided that it was best for me to move on to the next part of my journey, and that was starting therapy. Now, I think that I'm going to do a completely different video on my journey with therapy after this video, simply because I want to get into a deep conversation of what that journey looked like for me, what I looked for in a therapist, what triggers I had at the time, and how my therapist and I worked through those triggers, and how I got to where I am today mentally and physically. And I hope that you guys tune in because I feel that it played a huge role in my healing journey. Before I end this video, I want to reread the last part of my letter that I wrote to all the victims, scratch that, all of the survivors who have experienced some sort of abuse, some sort of traumatic experience that has altered their childhood or their teenage years or their adulthood, because it can happen to anybody, men and women at any age. And because of that, this is for you. Dear survivor, you are not alone. That terrible moment in your life does not and will never define who you are and will become as a person. You are stronger than you think you are. I promise you, you are. You will set yourself free of the anxiety that binds you, the sleepless nights, and fear of ever being able to trust again. It may not be in form of a letter like me, but you will find a way to free yourself, and it will be the happiest moment of your life. Although it took me more than a decade to figure it out, please know that nobody is in control of your life but you. Know that you are loved because I love you. You are my sister. You are my brother. You are not alone in your sentiments and will never be. I may not know you, but I am extremely proud of all of your accomplishments. Don't ever let anyone dim your beautiful light. As a survivor myself, believe me when I tell you that it gets better. I promise. I wanted to reread that last part of my letter because I felt that it was a very important part of my letter. It was me sharing my love, me sharing my strength, me sharing my journey with you guys, hoping that it brings you some sort of comfort, hoping that it gives you the strength to speak up about your own personal experiences, hoping that it helps you take that step to get therapy, to speak to your family members, to speak to your friends about what you've been through, because you will only get through this if you have a support system right there with you. I promise you. I tried to get through this on my own for 16 years, and it wasn't until I spoke up about my journey that I was able to free myself and that I was able to heal myself with the love of those around me. I encourage you to share this video on your social media platforms. I encourage you to share this video with your friends and your families, just because you never know how a video like this will affect somebody. Just because you never know how much a video like this can help somebody that you know that may be going through something similar to my situation and might need that extra push to get through it and heal in the best of ways. Also want to let you guys know that at the end of this video and in my description box, I will have resources for sex abuse victims should you need them for yourself or to share them with somebody that you know. As always, I wanted to thank you guys for watching my video. I also wanted to thank you guys for allowing me to feel comfortable enough to share my experiences on here, good or bad. I always appreciate the sweet comments and the feedback that you guys provide. It really helps me continue to create honest, raw, transparent content, and this is what my page is always going to be about: sharing experiences, good or bad, giving advice, receiving advice, giving encouragement, receiving encouragement, giving love, and receiving love. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.